episode of our podcast. Today we will chat about a topic that is very important, saving money. Let's be real, saving can feel like climbing a mountain, especially when life's expensive and the future feels uncertain. But what if we told you that saving, even a little, could transform your financial future? Alex, what's the one question you wish you would have asked about saving when you started?
That's a good question. I think I should have asked myself, like, how do I start saving when it feels like, there's nothing left at the end of the month? A lot of people feel that way, I guess. And that is something we will talk about today in a lot more detail, sharing with you what we have gone through, our saving journeys, and lots of practical tips for you, such as the 50-30-20 rule, like how important it is to have very good goals, or one of our favorites, tax-free savings accounts. Anna, I believe you started quite late with saving. Do you want to tell us a little bit about like the struggles that people are facing when it comes to saving?
Sure, of course, there is low income and unemployment. That is one of the bigger topics. Over 50% of households earn 3,500 to 15,000 Rand a month, and 20% earn less than 3,500. That's very little money to, then still look at saving. Of course, high unemployment. There is roughly 33.3%. That's the stats of the quarter two in 2024, if anyone is interested.
Well, having low income is one of them, but then on the other hand, we have, of course, the high cost of living. I mean, we've all felt it. Life has become a lot more expensive, and there is inflation. That's one thing that we all struggle with, of course.
Yeah.
And over the last, I think, 10 years or so, it's averaged around 5.5% annually, which is fairly high compared to other countries. And especially over the last, I think, 5 years, food has become so much more expensive. Like a basic food basket has become like about 70% more expensive. Electricity increased by, I think it was like 12 or 13% in 2024 alone. And I mean, petrol, come on, we all have to drive to places, has gone up by, I think, like 20% since
Yeah.
2023. So that is hectic. I mean, just how much more expensive our lives have become just in the last 5 years. And I'm sorry, but it didn't feel like our income has gone up by that much.
It does feel like these are, the downsides of the after COVID effect. Of course, there's also other reasons like cultural pressure. Many face black tax, supporting their extended family, and of course, there's social pressures, so that you actually want to show that you're doing okay or doing well, or maybe you just want to go shopping. It does point away from, or it does divert you from saving.
And financial literacy is another point that's very, very important. And unfortunately, especially in rural areas, people often have limited access to like all the banking we enjoy in cities, for example. And a lot of people don't trust financial institutions either because of like past scandals and so on. And not being aware of what options you have, not having full access, that also is something that prevents you from saving, of course.
And I do also think that a short-term mindset, either because you don't have a lot of money in general, and then kind of look at the live for today mentality. And then, of course, there's also a lot of high crime. Those kind of economic uncertainties push you to a different mindset than actually thinking about your future.
Yes, absolutely. A long-term saving mindset requires a certain level of feeling safe, and not everyone feels safe enough to, save for their retirement because am I going to be alive then?
Yes.
But yeah, so all of these are like very real barriers, especially in South Africa. But the thing is, they're not insurmountable. They feel like it, but they're not. The first one we mentioned was low income and also like the very high cost of living that we're facing.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a challenge that's hard, but living within your means is one of those things that can help you juggle all those expenses. It doesn't always feel fair. I get it. You know, other people have more, they can afford a nicer life and so on. But the biggest issue with not living within your means is debt. And debt is something that gets more and more and more. And you not only have to pay back the money that you borrowed, but also interest, which is usually quite high. So even if you use your credit card to buy groceries, it feels like, yes, that's something necessary. But again, even with groceries, you have to ask yourself, is it something I need or is it something I want? Sure, we all need food, but what kind of food? And like, do I go and buy bulk because right now I have a little bit more money and save by buying bigger quantities? Or can I put money all together with some family members or people you live together with to have more money to buy shopping and make use of certain savings? Use your smart shopper cards, for example. You can make good savings there. So living within your means is very important, always prioritizing what you need versus what you want.
Yeah, no, well said. You can resist social pressure. We've been mentioning that other people have a good life, and that is lived before your eyes. We don't know that. We don't know how somebody else's life is really panning out, if they're living paycheck to paycheck or even in a lot of debt. So just resist the social pressure completely. Your financial health comes first. It's okay to say, how about we go out for dinner next month? So you don't have to do this right now. And just remember always, if your cup is empty, you can't pour more from it. So resisting and making sure that your financial health is well, for lack of better words, should come first. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I mean, you cannot pour from an empty cup. So it's good to learn how to say no. Very important in every aspect of your life. Another very important thing is to educate yourself about finances. Yes, we know it can feel like a dry topic or an overwhelming topic, but by now there are many websites out there that try to make it easier for people to educate themselves about money. And also, like Capitec, for example, has a Live Better Academy, or Old Mutual
Yeah.
has great financial educational tools. Easy Equity does as well. I mean, and there's our blog, our podcast, and many others out there that really help you for free to get a better understanding of what is necessary to be able to retire comfortably. So it's up
Yeah.
to you to educate yourself.
Yes, it's never been easier to educate yourself. I really agree with that. Yeah. And then there's also to plan just simply for the long term. Yes, the average life expectancy is not that high in South Africa as to speak, but if you are, taking care of yourself, making sure that you work out, that you might not die of heart failure or might not contract HIV. So, and then your life expectancy out of a sudden rises quite quickly. So, I wouldn't want you to be fooled by the lower life expectancy, just that you have an idea. At 62, I think a lot of us will outlive that, especially women. So, we need to understand that we need to be able to take care of ourselves, and money is the way to do that. And without it, you're not going to be able to live a comfortable life. And at some point, we won't be able to work anymore, maybe even need help. So planning for the long term is super important.
For women, the average age is actually 68. 62 is for men.
Oh,
But
thank you.
all good. Even 68 doesn't sound very high, but like you were saying, all the leading causes of death in South Africa are diseases, and crime actually plays a fairly low role in how many people die. So it is always worth saving for your future. And you
Yeah.
know what? Even if it's not for yourself, that money then goes to your children. And it's good to give your children a head start. That's another point to consider when you plan for your retirement.
Let's start about the power of starting early, something that I'm super excited about because I didn't do it. No, but point is, I think it does play a part. When I make a joke about this, it's my motivation to actually tell other people about my story is to motivate them to start early. Because, of course, the power of time, the power of compound interest is massive. Like, I had to take big steps, to actually move forward into the right direction. Just that you have an understanding of what I mean when I'm talking about big steps. I'm saving about 50% of my income. So it's massive, not just saving, I'm investing it. So that's a huge difference. If I would have started 10 years earlier, I would have not had to hustle as much as I need to now in order to want to be able to achieve what I want to achieve. So obviously, there's always ways to improve that. But time is definitely your biggest asset here. So don't think I don't have money right now. Even 100 rands that you are saving and investing can make a massive difference over time.
Absolutely. I mean, I started in my late 20s, so a bit sooner than you. But in retrospect, it feels late, to be honest. I mean, I started working in my early 20s, so I should have started saving right there and then. The moment your very first paycheck hits, you start saving. Didn't do that back then, but I'm still glad I started when I did. And my reasons for it was simply I realized that I can't rely on, the government to make sure that I'm well once I'm old. It used to be the case in Germany, but even there, it's no longer the case. You need to make sure that you look after yourself.
Mhm.
And I had a pension fund insurance that was sold to me by a financial advisor. And at the time, it sounded great. But when I started educating myself, I realized, oof, it's actually not the best option out there for myself. And that's also when I started realizing that financial advisors, they do a good job, but in the end, they are salespeople, not always advisors. And you need to differentiate whether they are commission based or fee based. In South Africa, most advisors are commission based, which sounds great because in the beginning, you don't pay a cent to get all the service, but you pay over time because whatever your premium is, a small percentage goes then to the financial advisor. And for as long as you have that insurance, that person gets paid and your savings are just that much less. Whereas a fee based advisor is someone that you pay upfront. Yes, it comes with a cost, but then there is no commission that gets deducted later. So you're able to save more. And also, that person then works for you because you paid that person. So they might not necessarily sell you something that gives them the highest commission, but is more likely to be in your best interest. So, not saying that one is better than the other, absolutely not, in terms of quality of service, but you also want to make sure that there is no conflict of interest. Yeah, to get back to the original point about saving as early as possible, and you said compound interest is fantastic, and I have to agree it is. So let's use an example. Let's say you earn 20,000 Rand a month and you want to save 10%, which would be 2,000. Savings rate would be about 5%, which is inflation adjusted. So it's not as high as, it might look on some fact sheets that you can get, but you actually always need to deduct inflation. So 5% is a very reasonable rate. And after 10 years, you would have deposited 240,000 Rand and gotten 70,000 in interest. Okay, sounds good. But now, after 20 years, double the amount, so that's 480,000. But now you have 335,000 Rand in interest, which is way more than 70,000. And it's way more than double than that. And after 30 years, you actually have more interest than you've paid in. 200,000 Rand more in interest than what you actually paid in. So that shows just the amazing power of compound interest.
Yeah, that's magical, to be quite honest. It's like, no, I
Absolutely.
love it, always blows me away. I really do have to agree with Albert Einstein, who said that this was the eighth wonder of the world. Sometimes it's hard to even wrap your own head around it. Like,
Definitely.
yeah.
Question. Why did you start saving? You said you started saving quite late. And
Yeah.
what was your reason to like, okay, now's the time. I have to start.
Look, I started like because of personal circumstances, but like now, when I look back at it, it feels like I was just making excuses. I was basically literally terrified. I started waking up in the middle of the night and really being worried about my future. So that's what
Mm.
pushed me over the edge that I could no longer sleep. Like
Yeah,
quite literally.
sleep is important.
So it's like, okay, it's time to look under the lid of what's happening in my life. And then it wasn't actually as bad as I had feared. I wasn't standing in such a bad state. My status quo was actually pretty okay. But this is one of the examples where it's clear you have to rip off the band-aid of fear, literally, and just
Mhm.
do the looking, do the calculating, deal with the difficulties in your life. Whenever you fear something specifically, it's really worth it to go into it. And for me, it was plenty worth it. Yeah. And then, of course, what turned it around was that I was able to set proper goals, like emotionally charged goals, not just the goal as an, oh, I need to do that. I was like, okay, I need to do that for a reason. And then it was worth it out of a sudden. So it was worth it for me to actually save. Let's say you want to save 50,000 for the education of your children, which is, by the way, not that much if we look at school education. But you want to save it in the next 3 years for your children, then it's good to actually break down your goal into a more achievable, smaller steps. So, like 50,000 sounds like a lot. And then if you actually break it down in smaller steps, then it's just much more achievable. Calculate it down, you calculate it by 3 years, what you need then, and then you divide it again by 12, and then you only have to save 1,389 per month. This is much more achievable than just looking at 50,000. Of course, we are big supporters of big goals. So try to always edge for a little bit more. When I see the 1,398, then I'd actually in my mind immediately want to go for, let's push it to 1,500 because, stretch goal. And then, of course, vision boards are super, super helpful if you want to achieve any goal in life. The more important it is for you, the more you want to visually support it so that you actually can achieve it. That is very, very helpful, vision boarding. Yeah. How was it for you, Alex?
Well, one of my main reasons was actually that I've always hated debt. I've managed to be debt free throughout most of my life. And if I had debt, it wasn't like it was minimal. But I remember this one time when I was a teenager and I had borrowed money to go out with friends. And, I just didn't have the money to pay it back. And the person I had borrowed that money from kept pestering me to pay it back. I mean, that's perfectly understandable. And I couldn't. And I felt so bad about it. And I started avoiding that person. And I was not nice. I mean, eventually I did pay it back for sure. But I just felt really bad about it. Being a bad friend and like also not very open and honest with my communication at that time. Like, ugh. And that left such a bad memory for me that I swore to myself, like, listen, not going to happen again. I'm not going to be that friend. So later, when I started educating myself, I also learned about an emergency fund, or as we like to call it, a safety fund, because it is your safety net, so to speak. And that is of utmost importance. And the reason is simply that you have a certain amount of savings, and we usually say like about 3 to 6 months of either expenses. So to make sure that everything is covered if you don't have any income, or the easiest is just to say like 3 to 6 months of your income should be put safely into a savings account, easily accessible, but in a separate savings account with, very important, interest rate that is higher than the inflation rate, because otherwise that money will lose value over time. And then you must just clarify, okay, what is an emergency? If your car breaks down, if the geyser breaks and you don't have insurance, or if, you know, your washing machine has finally given up and you need a new one. So these are emergencies. And for that, the emergency fund is the perfect pot to dig into. And that means you just have money if, let's be frank, shit hits the fan. You don't have to go into debt. That is super, super important. Being able to have a little money on the side, being able to survive for half a year without having to work and not going into debt.
Not just only not going into debt. You don't want to touch things that you have maybe built up, your investment portfolio or whatever.
Yeah, so that is for your retirement. You're absolutely right. That should
Yeah.
not be touched. So having extra savings on the side is super important.
Yeah, it helps with everything. Like just having this emotional cushion of a safety fund is just pure bliss. I always say to Alex that I'm quite brave with my investments, but it's because I have a safety fund. Without it, I would not be brave. But let's talk about our favorite saving strategies. Alex,
Mm.
do you want to start with 50-30-20 rule?
Well, yes, I mentioned it before. It's a quite common rule. It says that about 50% of your income should go for your needs. And that is your rent, your food, petrol, that kind of stuff. Then 30% should go for wants. That's your entertainment, that's going out, that is maybe even your pet is included in that. So having a pet is a certain luxury in a way, but also, that nice chocolate. Even though it's food, it's a luxury. Then the other 20% that goes towards either savings or debt repayment. Very important, if you have debt, that needs to go first because that will eat up any savings you have because of the high interest. So debt repayment is the most important thing. Once you cleared all that, start saving ASAP. And 20% is what should go into that.
I really like this setup, especially for people that are a bit younger. They can actually deal with that quite nicely. Also, I think automating savings is an important one, especially if you're not diligent or if you're not very consistent. If you automate it right after the money hits your account, your savings go away, then you're not tempted to touch it. It leaves because at the beginning of the month, because you need to live somewhere. Quite important. So if you automate your savings or like go as per pay yourself first, that's the other way of saying it. Well, then this is one way to do it. And then I think also using a rewards program that can be very, very helpful. Don't just buy because you can. Make sure it's necessities or things that are important. I always say, like, well, I need toilet paper anyway, so I might as well buy it in a double pack. But I do make sure that I actually use my rewards card to get the most out of it.
I mean, if you have the time, and I think most of us do have those 10 minutes to just, do some online research to see, like, oh, okay, what do I need right now? And then see which of the supermarkets have a special on it. And another point that is very important, not just when it comes to finances, and that is to start fixing your problems before they become too big. There's a saying, small leaks will sink a big ship. If you wait for the problem to become huge, it will cost you a lot of effort, time, and maybe even money to fix it. Whereas now it's still small and manageable, fix it right there and then. This is also something that creates a habit and discipline by starting to save now, even if it's a small amount. You start fixing that big ship of retirement.
Yeah, I also really like to recommend, I mean, we said it already earlier, but the tax-free savings account. That's a massive one for retirement that actually can carry you forward really, really big. So just to give you the rough idea of a tax-free savings account, it's that you can save 36,000 per year into this account and 500,000 for life. But the beauty actually really starts with compound interest. So the sooner you hit the 500,000, it can compound. So this is not a tool for you to actually save your money in for an emergency. This is a tool for retirement because everything that is earned in interest in this account is tax free.
Wow.
Sorry, like I have to say that again. It's tax free. Even your retirement account is being taxed at a later stage. And this is tax free. So let's say you do this for your children early on, and they have, 30 years to grow up, and you have, I don't know, maybe put in 100,000 for them to start. This is massive. This can grow really, really big over time and give your children a head start that they really will enjoy if you have that luxury of doing that.
100% agree. What's very important to mention here is that the 500,000 is a lifetime limit. So whenever you withdraw money, you can't put it back in later. Like you said, it is for retirement, not for any kind of short-term saving, but it is a beautiful tool, just like a retirement annuity. And the great tax benefits of a retirement annuity is that all your contributions to that annuity are then deducted from your taxable income. So you lower the amount of tax you have to pay while you're still working. That is also another fantastic tool. You can lower your taxable income by up to 27.5%, which is big.
And in a little Easter egg, if you are using your pension and then receives a tax return, don't spend it. Use it to actually fuel your tax-free savings account. So pay into your pension account, as much as you can. 27.5 would be ideal. And then when the tax return comes, then you use that money to put it into your tax-free savings or into your pension again. It's up to you, but don't spend it. Don't spend it. The Easter egg is
Mhm.
coming then at the end of the life. But
Yeah, very
um,
true. A nice little challenge, let's call it that way, is to have no spend weekends, for example, or a no spend week. That's, yeah, something I try to do every month at least once. And I believe friends of ours do that as well, right?
Rachel does it. Yeah, she's very, very sweet. She's a friend of ours. She really has taken to the no spend weekends. And she said to me, like, I love doing them at least once a month, but I will promise you, I will get my wine before the weekend starts.
Yes, yes. But for me, it's like, there are quite a few activities that you can do that cost nothing. Like I like to go hiking, doesn't cost me anything. You can go to the beach and, just meet up with friends at their place and just hang out, watch a movie, whatever. So there are ways to have a good time without having to spend money. And that's something we often forget. Like, no, we want to go to this restaurant or we want to go there, we want to do this. And, you don't have to. Quality time does not have to be expensive.
There's this mindset often that because we put so much of our life into work, we actually have to reward ourselves afterwards. But like to actually reframe it and to really think about paying yourself forward to actually gain freedom is a mindset that I really, really, really enjoy. If you look at it from a different angle and say, like, okay, well, the sooner you start your financial independence, the sooner you no longer have to work in modern slavery. It's like, for lack of better word, I think both you and I, we love working, but it's a nice way of reframing that you can choose the way you work. That is, I think, my biggest goal to make sure that I no longer have to, but can choose what I want to spend my time on. The way to get to this goal is for certain to have financial independence.
Absolutely. One of the other ways that I like to save money is actually to negotiate. It's taken me a while, definitely. It didn't come naturally. But I recently phoned my insurance company and said, like, I have three different insurances with you, and right now I need to tighten the belt a little bit. Is there any way that I can lower my monthly premium? And without having to lose any of the benefits that I enjoy through that insurance, they actually gave me, I think, 100 Rand off. So,
That is
I mean,
massive.
100 rent per month, if you add that up over the years, that's quite a bit of money. So whether it's your phone contract, your insurances, your mortgage, any kind of fees, you can negotiate. My new motto, like I said, it didn't come naturally to me. My new motto is like, you'll never know if you don't ask. They can't say more than no. And where's the harm in that? So just, ask. And obviously the same goes for the other way around. Ask for a raise for your salary. I mean, that goes with more preparation to show them like, yes, listen, I deserve more money or why you deserve more money. But again, if you don't ask, you might be forgotten. So ask.
Yes, the levers that we have in order to actually save more is obviously to either restrict the spending, look at your budget and so on, or increase your income. Those are the two, and negotiation is a beautiful way to make sure that you increase. I fully agree with you, Alex. I actually do this every year with the insurances. Every year they give me an increase on my insurance, and I'm calling them and I'm like, what for? Especially for your car that loses value. Why would you pay more for that? So I negotiate every year. That even
For
counts for
you.
your mortgage. I did not know that. So I was very upset that I learned about that late. So for the people that are out there paying a mortgage, you can negotiate your mortgage.
And that is a lot of money, your mortgage.
Correct. That's very important. And I think the more you negotiate and learn to negotiate, the better you get at it. And it's also not a train smash. If you don't make it, it's more of like getting in the habit of like really thinking, what do you spend your money on? And is there a way to cut down on that? Because it would give you more opportunity to save for all of the goals that you have. Yeah.
Another great way to save more money is, let's say your negotiations were successful and you got a salary increase. Now, that money that you got more, let's say that's 2000 Rand, put half of that money straight into savings because you are used to living with those 2000 Rand less. So you wouldn't feel it if now you only had 1000 Rand more. It's still you have more money. and 50% of that, so the other 1,000 rand, you can just put straight into your savings. Or let's say you got a windfall for some reason, whether that's a big bonus, that's some inheritance, or hey, who knows, you won the lottery. Just put half of that money into savings straight away because that's money you've never had. So that's money you'll never miss.
Love that, Alex. This is actually how I managed to get to 50% of my income saved. I've just never ever paid out any of my increases to me since a very long time. I've literally just pretended I'd never gotten it and I just saved more because I'm not that good at saving, but I'm very good at pretending I never got the money. So
That
you always have to ask yourself what works for you. We're human and we have to acknowledge that. So if you need to trick yourself into getting better, do it. That's what I would recommend doing. It helped me a lot. It also helps when you do little challenges. I think Alex and I, we egg each other on a lot, actually. Like, okay, this is how much I saved this month. And then Alex is like, okay, cool. I'd like to try to beat that as well. The competitiveness in humans comes out. Yeah.
true, true, yes. And I like what you said about that you phone your insurance once a year actually to get a decrease or not an increase, let's put it that way. And whether you have to trick yourself or like once a year you sit yourself down and go through your finances and like, okay, cool. What am I spending money on? Is there something that I actually don't need? Like certain subscriptions. I mean, it's so easy to sign up for this, and there was a 30-day free trial, and then we forgot about it. And, then we ended up paying the whole fee for it. So just every now and then, even more than once a year, go through your bank statement and go like, okay, so this, do I actually need all those things? And cancel whatever you don't need. And let's be honest, do you need Netflix, Amazon Prime, and ad-free YouTube? So three of the same kind of, one should be enough. Just ask yourself what's most important and where can you save?
I think there is a lot of ways of how to save. Please let us know if you know of any more. Tell us in the comments. We would love to hear your small little ways of saving. I think just the one that I'd like to add to the subscription is to actually unsubscribe from newsletters that really get you to purchase things. Because we usually only subscribe to things where we want to buy something. And it's so tempting. For me, it's vacations. I have a subscription for specific ones. And sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm subscribed to all of them because now I don't waste my time on it. I don't because I look. But if you don't get the newsletter, you don't.
Very true, yeah. There is actually one more that I recently discovered and that I'd like to add because I think it's great. My washing machine actually broke down and I needed a new one. So I found the one I wanted and they offered me an interest-free payment plan for 3 months. So instead of paying the one big sum, I now pay it over 3 months without having to pay any interest for it. And that is something that's pretty cool, actually, because you don't have any extra costs, and that money that's in your account for longer gives you more interest. So if it's interest free, hey, make use of it, provided that you actually need the item. Like, don't go shopping like, oh, look at this. Wouldn't it be nice to have? And it comes with an interest free payment plan. Like, no, if you don't need it, why? But if you do need it, sure, make use of that.
I like that. I was wondering why you were speaking about a washing machine earlier as the use for your emergency fund. Now I know.
Yes, yes.
But let's move on to the next topic and actually speak about navigating relationships or family
Mm.
expectations, because that's a big one when it comes to savings. I believe you have something to share there, Alex. What would you like to go first?
Yeah, relationship and money is another big topic, and everything we've spoken about until now involves basically only you. But in a relationship, there is more than just you, there's at least two of you. And it might be that the two of you have different money spending habits, or in general, money habits. The one of you might be a saver, the other one might be a spender. And that will definitely, trust me, definitely cause issues. And I know that from my own relationship. And we've had, yeah, some tough talks. Talking about money isn't always easy. A lot of people feel like it's a taboo topic. Also depends on how you were raised, not used to talking about money, something very personal and private. It was difficult in the beginning. But, we got to a point where like, okay, cool. Let's have a neutral conversation. Let's try to keep the emotions out of it. Like, I'm not attacking you, but we need to, focus on something that we can both enjoy. What we did in the end was we decided on a shared savings goal. In our case, that is the down payment of a mortgage because we would love to have our own place. I really miss my garden. And then both of us have, discretionary spending money that we don't have to justify what we spend it on. So that is something that can help a lot with different money habits.
Yeah, no, I can tell a tale about that as well. It took me a while to get my partner on the savings train or just generally being interested in finances. And just the way how we overcame this challenge was to get him interested in something that he loves. So the moment he was able to actually follow his own passion and own interest, he came on board super easy. Yeah. So let's break it down. If your children are interested in a PlayStation because they're playing it, makes them understand that a company is sitting behind that and that they actually are able to invest in PlayStation as a company. Guess how quick they're gonna become interested in the entire system. It's a way of, especially, when we're different in the way of how we approach things as women and men to overcome those challenges. And now my partner and I are able to actually sit down and talk about our money goals together. He is actually the one that never shuts up about it. I say that in a very loving way. An alternative would be, of course, the three account system. If it takes a little while to get your partner on board, because sometimes it does, then you can have a three account system. As an example, the three account system is literally that one partner has one account, the other one has another account, and you pay into a third account. Let's say you have a mutual income of 25,000 altogether, and your shared expenses, rent, groceries, and so on, are 10,000. Then you could agree on that one partner pays 60% and the other one 40%, so 6,000 and 4,000 into that shared account in order to make sure that all of your fixed expenses that you have together are paid from that account. Then each of you are still able to save, have money in your own personal accounts that you can use. So that's a really, really beautiful system in order to actually go about and have a shared responsibility while still being able to save towards your own personal goals, being able to just give a present at your own discretion, not having to share all of your expenses.
Absolutely. I love that system and we are using it and it saves fights. Honestly, a lot of fights. And money isn't just an issue in romantic relationships, it can also be an issue in extended families. And in many cultures, especially in Africa and Asia, it is expected of the younger generation who tends to make more money to financially support other family members and even at the expense of your own financial stability. And to be honest, I personally have very limited to none experience when it comes to that because it's not part of my culture. But I asked a good friend of mine who is the oldest of three siblings and also the best earner. And I asked her about black tax. And she's like, so how does it work? Like, what's the deal about it? And like, how do you handle it kind of? And she said, like, it's a very sensitive topic to, touch upon. But the way she handled it was like saying that she wasn't against it and she was happy to support, especially her parents, whose rent she was paying, I think, 50% off or something. And she said, like, she didn't mind it. Her parents have given her so much and that she wanted to repay them. But, it does become difficult when there's too much expectation on you. And her siblings also contributed, but not to the same extent that she did. And the one time a relative of her became unemployed, and then because she was the best earner, she was expected to like contribute to that person as well. And she was like, okay, now I'm reaching my limits of what I can do. And it became detrimental for her own financial stability. Like she was no longer saving any money and just giving any extra money to the family. And she realized, okay, this can't be it. So she had to sit them down and a frank talk with them, which she said was not easy, not at all. But she explained to them, like, listen, I am happy to support you, but at the same time, I also need to look after myself because I don't have children and I don't know if I'll ever have children. So there's no one to look after me when I'm old. So I have to look after my own retirement. So I have to save a certain amount, and that money I can't give to you. And there was quite a bit of pushback, of course, and let's say guilt tripping. But in the end, they understood. And she said, like, listen, I will contribute what I can contribute. And they, like I said, sat down and discussed, okay, who's giving how much to whom. And she said, like, when she is able to give a little bit more and it's needed, she will. But if someone asks her for money and she can't, she now has the policy of like, no, I come first. My retirement comes first. And there was guilt tripping and all of that in the beginning, but she said slowly but surely, like it stopped. So it's not easy, definitely not easy, but it is possible to look after yourself as well as supporting your family with clear boundaries. Very important, clear boundaries.
I like how you said that. I think it's a very difficult topic, specifically in South Africa. So if this is something that you are dealing with and want to know more of how to handle it, there are actually books that have been written about that topic. Black Tax, Burden or Ubuntu is one of them, or Handle Black Tax Like a Pro. I actually really dislike the term black tax because it's immediately, attached to a skin color. I think like a lot of us are having to support their family members or friends in a way. I think it's a very, very important thing to read books like this when you are dealing with a challenge in order to actually make sure that you're dealing with it correctly in a way that is healthy to you. We would love to hear from you if you have read those books. But just like in the end, becoming financially independent is a form of support. So remember, like we said earlier, you can't pour from an empty cup. Guess what? If you're financially independent, you can support the people around you, you can support yourself, you can support even your community. So the bigger your financial stability is, the better your social circumstances. So this is another way of reframing your mindset into a supportive way to become financially independent.
And the other thing is, if you have money, you won't have to ask for money or support from someone else. But that's also an important factor that you are not the one asking for money and dependent on someone else.
Yeah, so let's wrap up to get the final or most important tips so that we leave you with that in mind. So set yourself clear goals. Make sure to track your spending. Start small, but start now because time is really, really, really of the essence here. Keep your savings out of easy reach, specifically your safety fund. Automate as much as you can. It's very, very important to automate and of course celebrate your milestones that you reach, not by, financially stretching, but celebrate.
Couldn't agree more with you, Anna. And as a closing thought, I would like to leave you with something that really had a big impact on me when I heard it for the first time. And that is, it doesn't matter how much you make. It only matters how much you keep. Just think about that.
Now, this is a powerful one. The moment you understand this, the moment you will reframe your mindset around savings and the way to go about it. So maybe just like take 10 minutes out of the day, if it's your morning when you're listening to this, and just give it some time to sink in and then see about how you are able to implement savings into your daily life to support your financial wellness in the long run. So make that your goal today.
Yeah, like you said, having a clear goal is very important. And not just a clear goal, it has to be like something, that touches your heart, that makes you like, and just thinking about it. And the idea of like, okay, this is what I want to get out of bed for every morning with a big smile, not grumpy.
Yeah.
So goals are super, super important. And if you want to know more about how to set goals, we have also a podcast on that. So by all means, go and check out the rest on Spotify or YouTube.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a lot of fun, and we hope to hear from you in your comments. Like, please tell us what you want to hear in the future. We are happy to make further podcasts on topics that are interesting to you. And of course, we want to leave you with a little bit of a reminder that we are on Facebook and Instagram. You can also check us out on our website, if you're interested what else we do. We have a money magnet meetup. We usually have them on the last Thursday of the month in Cape Town, somewhere in the CBD.
And as always, stay tuned and remember, you're a money magnet.
you are.